All right. So really glad that you could join us here this morning. And this mindful cardio is a program now that has been in my mind for almost a year, if not even a little bit longer. It really kind of came to fruition once we started to go into this lockdown with this pandemic. And in many respects, I view what we're doing here in mindful cardio as a culmination of my whole career. And so I've been doing mind body work primarily through teaching yoga for over 30 years. And I'm really grateful and appreciative for all those years I spent doing that. And to me, it really feels like it was sort of preparatory for what we're doing right here in mindful cardio. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about why I think that this work is the culmination and why I think it's so timely. So in the meantime, it probably goes without saying that these are unprecedented times, that we have this pandemic, we have sort of an unprecedented disparity among people in terms of their rights and the dignities that they enjoy. We have a polarization politically I can't remember in my lifetime. And then we have this election where things just seem to be getting more disrupted and more disturbed kind of as the days go on. And I think this is a time for us to be engaged in the world. And there are a number of contemplative practices that I think, whether intended or not intended, can sort of maybe pull us away from engagement. And, I think now, whether it's to look after children or grandchildren, or to plant a garden, or to do social justice work or political action work, I think this is a good time. This may be the time in our lifetime to do so. So what does this have to do with mindful cardio? I think it has everything to do with it. That whatever it is that we want to do or feel inspired to do, it's going to take some resilience. It's going to take mental resilience to stay open-hearted and compassionate no matter what goes on around us. It's going to take physical resilience because it might just be physically tiring to be out doing what needs to be done, whether it's gardening or doing ecological restoration, whatever your path is for your activities, it's going to take mental and physical resilience. And that is really the theme of what we do in mindful cardio, is we're bringing together the mental practices and we're bringing together the physical practices. Why? So that we can develop a joyful resilience, not some sort of stoic resilience, but the one that's open-hearted and just overflows. And that joyful resilience, so you can do what you need to do, whatever your path may be. And that's something that every mindful cardio session starts with, is that frame. We're doing these workouts, we're doing cardio, we're doing alignment work, we're doing meditation, so that we can enjoy the joyful resilience, so that we can do what needs to be done. So with that frame in mind, then what is it that we do? Well, one of the big goals is to make this a community. So calling this the mindful cardio community is not a mistake. It's not like a branding exercise. Oh, community is the new hot button. The idea of community, I think, is one of the main elements that makes mindful cardio, is we come together, and of course we can't be in the same space close together like we used to be able to, but we can now leverage these technologies to still come together. And so we come together by doing these classes, and it can oftentimes be helpful simply to know that right here, right now, there are other people scattered all over the world that have come together with the same intentionality. And joint intentionality is a really powerful force for humans. That's like humans at our best. So we have that joint intentionality that we are doing these things so that we can be out in the world doing our work. Then we also have the coming together that helps to increase what in the exercise world is called adherence. That one of the things that we know is that people who embark on an exercise routine, that at least 3/4 of them will fall off that routine within a matter of 2 months. And the scientists have been looking at this for many decades. And so every last idea has been tried. Okay, so a study that I cite oftentimes, people who have had a really major heart attack, and it's really clear there's a fork in the road. If they start exercising, they will have a better life. They will live longer with better health. And if they don't exercise, they're going to die far sooner and have much less energy and quality of life and so forth. So you'd think, okay, that's pretty stark. They're all going to exercise, right? No, it's the same stats. 3/4 of them fall away. And then if you add in, well, if you live longer, you can see your grandchildren and so on and so forth. You think, okay, that's the hook. Same result. They stop exercising. And the same with education programs, like physical education in the schools, I hate to say it, has by and large failed. That most people are still not exercising, even though we know that it's good for this, that, or the other thing. So you might be thinking, wow, mindful cardio is a downer. Anderson's saying that people don't exercise and all these good reasons that they don't stick with it, but there's a silver lining. There's one thing that has consistently been shown again and again and again and again to increase adherence in exercise, and that's to do it with other people. We are communal creatures. External circumstances notwithstanding, we are communal creatures. And so by that joint intentionality of us coming together as a virtual community, will make it more likely that we can stick with these practices that are so incredibly beneficial for our bodies, our brains, and our minds, that can help give us a joyful resilience to do what we need to do. So community is a really big part of it. We come together to do the classes, that's part of the community. We come together, we have a private group on Facebook, and a lot of great dialogue and interactions occur there. And then we also work with a workout app called Strava, that a lot of us are active on Strava, and then we can watch, oh, this person's doing this and that, and we can cheer for each other, and that can be a real nice incentivizer to stick with these programs. So we have this community that's formed, the Mindful Cardio community. This can help us stick with these practices that we know can be really beneficial. And we get to do it together, which to me is kind of fun. Like right now, I get to see a lot of your faces. And I don't know about you, but this brings me a lot of joy to think that we're not out here in some sort of virtual bubble, disconnected from other human beings. So the three components. So I'm going to start with the cardio and then go sequentially through the cardio, through the movement lab, and the meditation, and talk a little bit about how we approach it and then why we're doing it, what the benefits are. And so cardio is, it would be really hard to overstate how good it is for your body. And, just in brief, that doing regular cardio, excuse me, is probably one of the very best things you can do for mental health and physical health. And so in the realm of mental health, we have really good scientific evidence that cardio is really good for managing stress, really good for working with anxiety, really good for working with depression. At the level of neural circuitry, what we see is that even 15 years ago, the thought was the brain cells you have by the time you're a teenager, that's it. It's all downhill from there. Well, the evidence is really flipped on its ear, that you are growing brain cells the whole rest of your life. But the trick is, it happens when you do cardio. There's significant neurogenesis that occurs when you do cardio. Not when you do strength training, not when you do stretching, not when you even do core work. Like I love Pilates, but Pilates doesn't do this. Cardio does. That neurogenesis then builds in specific regions of your brain, primarily related to memory, your hippocampus. So wouldn't it be cool to keep your memory throughout your whole lifespan? And then those neurons stay if you then do cognitive work to embed them into circuitry. So this is one of the reasons we do these things in the order we do, that basically cardio kind of opens up your brain and actually creates more neurons. And then when you do some thought work or some contemplative work, it helps to embed those neurons into circuitry. You get to keep them. So that's pretty cool. So that's going to be one of the benefits. In fact, there's so many benefits to cardio that the esteemed British medical journal, The Lancet, went so far in a special edition to say, cardio could be considered a miracle cure. If a scientist could do something or develop something that gave you all these benefits, we would hands down call this a miracle cure. So a lot of benefits for your brain, the hardware of your brain, benefits for your affect, how you see the world, how you experience the world, how you approach the world. And then all these benefits for your body. You do cardio and it helps with your metabolism. You do cardio and it helps you to have more energy centers in your muscles. That the energy centers in your muscles, they're the mitochondria. And you do cardio, you build more mitochondria. You have more energy. And then in addition, you're going to create these changes in your heart. Your heart literally changes shape. It remodels for the better. And you have all these changes in your vascular system. You build more capillary beds. You have more capacity. And this really pays off as we get older. See, part of the aging process is your aerobic capacity naturally will decline as you age. And then you hit a certain point and it's really hard to execute your daily life. Well, that's if you don't do cardio. But if you do cardio, you can arrest that decline. In fact, you can reverse that decline. And that's going to help all of us as we age stay more active and more independent and more able to do what we have to do. And one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this is over the past 2 decades or so, I've seen a lot of people have gotten away from cardio. And they're doing really good stuff like yoga or Pilates or whatever it may be, but they are not doing cardio. And I feel like this is kind of my mission right here, is that's fine when you're young. But as you get older, and hopefully all of us will, there's a natural degradation in your cardio capacity that at some point is going to bite us all in the backside. Now is the time for us to do our cardio. And that can be pretty difficult because, to motivate yourself to get out in the cold, dark days that are ahead, or to motivate yourself when the bed is all warm and snuggly. And I talked about at the outset, it can be really hard to do. But to do it with a community makes it much more likely. Now, the cool thing is there's a lot of great exercise physiology research out there. There's actually sort of a threshold for the amount of activity. And above that threshold, people tend to do really well. And below that threshold, they tend not to do so well. And that threshold is 150 minutes per week. 150 minutes per week of moderate activity. So if you notice, mindful cardio is 3 days a week. We do 30 minutes of cardio each time and 20 minutes of movement lab core sort of work. If you join us 3 days a week, whether live or recorded, you hit your 150 minutes per week. Then anything else you do, whether it's parking the car farther from the store or taking the stairs instead of the escalator, that's all going to be icing on the cake. And so this whole program has really been designed, what can we do to cultivate mental and physical resilience so we can be engaged citizens during this really, unprecedented time. So cardio, how are we going to do it? Well, I'm pretty specific about how we do it. In general, what I find is most people, when they do cardio, whether it's walking or jogging or biking, whatever it is, either work out too intensely or not intensely enough. So in the exercise physiology world, in the strength and conditioning world, it's often said people's easy days are too hard and their hard days are too easy. So thankfully, what we can do is we can quantify this. We can use biofeedback. And the biofeedback that we use is monitoring heart rate. And I know when I say monitoring heart rate, I can almost always see a few people kind of get that look in their eyes. This is so that you can work out and get the optimal benefits. Then in my experience, most people, when they go to do cardio, work too hard. And when they work too hard, they get injured. When they work too hard, they feel depleted. And if you get injured or depleted, what's that going to do to your adherence to the cardio program? It ends, doesn't it? And typically with cardio, a day becomes a week, becomes 2 weeks, and before you know it, you've not been active for a few months. That's preventable. And the way it's preventable is to use a biofeedback device. Could be as simple as your smartwatch. And so everybody's optimal training zone is a little bit different. It depends on your age, it depends on your prior training history. There are a lot of variables involved. We can make it incredibly complicated, or we can make it very simple. I have a heart rate zone calculator that's part of the course materials for mindful cardio. And I use an equation that's called the Karpinen equation. And all you have to know is what your resting heart rate is and how old you are. And you plug that in. And those two are going to give you what your heart rate zone is. So for example, for me to be in my optimal training zone is between 125 heartbeats per minute and about 135 heartbeats per minute. And that training zone confers the maximum benefit. I'm going to talk more about why that's so important right now during COVID, is to work in that. It's called zone 2. There are 5 cardiac training zones. Zone 1 is the easiest. Zone 5 is you're right at the edge of failure. Zone 2 is on the easier side. More benefits there than paradoxically working out super intently. And that's kind of paradoxical because most of us think that, oh, when you do cardio, more intense, more better, high intensity. High intensity has all the good press right now. But for most of us, we're going to do it for a short period of time, fall away, and not end up long-term getting the good benefits. So that's a lot of me talking blah, 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 blah. So to summarize, cardio, super good for you. Really hard to overstate how important it is. And not any old cardio, but oddly enough, more moderate cardio, more better. So before I keep going, any comments, any questions, anything I've said thus far? So to step a little bit back and pan back, is there are a lot of different options for how you can get your cardio. I, for example, take my bike that I love to ride around the hills and I put it on a bike trainer. And so my bike I already have becomes my piece of cardio equipment. I didn't have to go out and buy something special for this. I know a lot of people are using a trainer that they put their existing bicycle on. Some people are using an elliptical, some people are using a treadmill, and Shelley, a lot of people, I dare say the majority, don't have any cardio equipment. So what some people are doing is I made up a routine on a video of calisthenics, and that works for some people. I also made up a handout for people doing step-ups, and you can do that step up, step down, step up, step down, and that can get you aerobic pretty darn quickly. And then a lot of people are actually listening as they go for a walk around the neighborhood. And you'd be welcome to go out and take a 30-minute walk, but actually a lot of the content of the course I deliver during the cardio portion. And so if you can keep listening, and a lot of people just put their phone in their pockets, and then they just are listening in their earbuds as they go take a walk, and then they can look at the clock and go, oh, it's about 5 minutes till they come back in the house to get on their mat. We have great scientific evidence about forest bathing and the value of being out in nature. And so, in these northern climates, at some point it's just too icy, it's too dangerous, then cardio equipment is really helpful. But until then, when I have my free time and I go for a workout, I'm outdoors. During the cardio, you can also practice mindfulness, that meditation and working out do not have to have a firewall in between them. So throughout the whole 30-minute duration of doing the cardio, we keep coming back to some of the key points of mindfulness. That awareness of the body, awareness of the breathing, and that can then help support sticking with the cardio. It's not so mindless as it can so often be. The other point here is that when we do cardio, there's a natural openness that occurs. And what we implant in that openness, I think, is really salient. When we go to a gym, what we see is all the people on the cardio machines watching the news or watching popular events and celebrities and whatnot. Is that what we really want to implant into our hearts and minds? Cardio time is precious. It's like there's an opening of your mind and your heart. And what do you want to implant in that? And that's an ongoing recurring theme in mindful cardio, is to come back. What's our motivation to be here? It's to cultivate this resilience. To do what? So we can be out in the world and do what we need to do. And then along with that, as we do the cardio, I always have a theme. of something I'm talking about, either in exercise physiology or neurophysiology or some combination thereof. So for example, this past week, I've been talking about motor learning, that when we have a habit in the body, what does that mean? Where does it come from? And how can we address those habits? And so I've been talking about the sense receptors in the body that feed stimuli to the brain, what parts of the brain are involved with perceiving that stimuli, how do we then work with these habits, these motor patterns. And so what I find is that exercise is a lot more fun if we know why we're doing it and what we're doing. And so along the way in the cardio, there's always going to be a theme so you can learn more about your body. So now I want to talk a little bit about Movement Lab. So Movement Lab is going to be based on what I learned from 30 years of teaching yoga and from 12 years now of teaching Pilates. I love those systems. That being said, what I found is each system I feel has its strengths and its weaknesses. In my experience, the primary weakness is they're not cardio. And a lot of people have put all their eggs in the basket of movement forms that do not include cardio. So including the cardio, here I am back at cardio. I think it's that important. But doing some mindful movement can be really useful. Yoga, Pilates, calisthenics. Because as we get older, we have injuries, we have this, that, and the other thing, and our bodies get kind of misaligned. We lose our core strength. And so we spend 20 minutes doing yoga-based, Pilates-based movements to help maintain our youthful flexibility, to help build and maintain core strength, and to help cultivate alignment in the body. And this is going to help us stay resilient for the long haul. The order is specific. Cardio first, get warmed up. Then once your muscles and joints are warm, then do the alignment and the core work. And then move into the meditation. So the Movement Lab occupies 20 minutes out of the 1 hour segment. So it's quite a bit of it. But I think a lot of us already know that aspect pretty well. A lot of us know each other through yoga, through Pilates. And so I'm not going to spend a ton of time because I think we already know that domain pretty well. I see some people nodding. So what is going to be forthcoming here starting the next week or so is in the Movement Lab portion, we will be using some dumbbells. And the reason for this is that muscle mass is really important as you get older. Now, when you're young, walking up the stairs, walking down the stairs, picking up a gallon jug, you're going to develop enough muscle mass to get by, no problem. But those of us over 40, if you know anybody over 40, we got a downhill thing that's happening. We are losing our muscle mass. Now, at a certain point, that's not a big deal. You don't really notice it until the horse is out of the barn and it's running down the driveway. And that's one of the things I noticed in teaching so much yoga for so many years is young people, they'd have sufficient muscle mass just by doing what they do. But in the absence of doing activities that build muscle mass, there is an inevitability that you'll lose enough muscle mass that it either impairs your bone density, your joints become more vulnerable and more likely to be injured because you don't have enough muscle mass. Muscle mass is related to metabolic health, specifically related to insulin resistance and prediabetes. More muscle mass, more better. And many of the activities, let me just own it, that I love to do don't build muscle mass. And so that's going to be something that's starting in a few weeks. We're going to add in more of is more body weight exercises and using light dumbbells. Don't worry, we're not going to, get huge weights and strain our neck in the process or anything like that. But having more resistance becomes increasingly important as we get older. So a study that I like quite a lot is grip strength. So grip strength can be measured pretty readily. At age 60, grip strength is the strongest predictor of your longevity. The strongest. It's held up better than anything else. Better than blood pressure, cholesterol, blood sugar, your grip strength. Now, of course, we know that grip strength by itself isn't that big a predictor, but it's proxy for your muscle mass. And having that greater muscle mass in your whole body is a profound predictor of how well you're going to age. So that's going to be something that I'll be rolling out more and more this coming fall into the winter, is using some light resistance to build the muscle mass, because yoga builds strength, Pilates builds strength, but strength and muscle mass are two different things. You can get stronger without building muscle mass. We're going to work on getting stronger and building muscle mass. So that was a little sidetrack. See, I love to talk about this physiology stuff. So last thing I want to talk about is meditation. And I'm not talking about meditation last because it's third on the list for me. Those of you who know me know that this is one of my passions in life, is to share meditation and to meditate. And like cardio, I could spend the whole rest of the day talking about the benefits for your physical health and your mental health. And I have the great privilege to work at the Center for Healthy Minds, where we're very actively engaged with research on the various benefits of meditation practice. And it's kind of astounding, from your gut health to your immune system to your ability to sleep and stay asleep. I mean, just the list goes on and on and on. And it can be hard to do, left to our own devices to set the timer or to get out the app and to do the meditation. It can be kind of hard to stick with it, can it? So we embed the meditation into mindful cardio, so that doing the mindful cardio program, you get half an hour a week of meditation in. Then anything else that you do is going to be icing on the cake. And kind of like cardio, more meditation tends to be more better. But at least you got that 30 minutes a week baseline in. Now, I introduced all sorts of different kinds of meditation. This morning we used mantra meditation, which can sound really esoteric and exotic. It wasn't some mantra coming from a different culture. I invited participants to think of a word that's inspiring, to think of a phrase that's inspiring, or recalling a prayer that's meaningful for you. And then to use those as your mantra, repeat them quietly to yourself. So that's one form of meditation I teach. I also teach breath awareness, tried and true classic technique, awareness of sound. So I'm saying these examples is that we're not doing one monolithic meditation has to always be this way, no other way. Introducing different varieties of meditation. So hopefully you can find techniques that work well for you. Now, why this order? Why not the meditation first? Well, as I mentioned, when you do cardio, there tends to be a natural openness that occurs in your brain, your mind, and your heart. And that openness supports meditation practice. And many people report when they sit down to meditate, whether it's on the floor or a chair or leaning back, whatever position you may use, when you do your cardio and mindful movement and then the meditation, many people report that supports their meditation practice. It helps them meditate. So the three, in my view, the whole exceeds the sum of the parts. The cardio by itself, if you do nothing else, is really great for your body, brain, and mind. Meditation in isolation, same thing. And a lot of us, we've worked together doing yoga and Pilates. Really cool practices, aren't they? But together, they are mutually beneficial. And then together, in community, I think we can get through this hard time. But we can't do it by ourselves. We can do it together. And that's one of my goals here in Mindful Cardio, is for us to come together in community to do these mind-body practices so that we can develop and cultivate and grow our joyful resilience, so that we can go out and do what needs to be done. So that's really the essence of what this program is. Mindful Cardio is part of a bigger tent at Pilates on Harrison. And so the way that we work is we do a monthly subscription, and that monthly subscription, you can take any class you want, as much mindful cardio as you want, our core classes, Pilates classes, yoga classes, bar classes. It all comes under the tent of your monthly subscription. So we also want to recognize that right now we have really super uncertain times, and that may impact people that you know, or maybe for yourself, where things are at financially. We have a pay what you can program. You tell us what you can afford. Yeah, we'd love the full price. It's $95 a month for a full subscription to access everything. But maybe that doesn't work in your friend's budget or your offspring's budget or your budget. So we have people paying $5 a month, people paying $120 a month, and then everything in between. And so the goal here is that we come together and we support ourselves. We create this community so that we can be at our absolute best. And we don't want to have finances be a barrier to that. And so, yes, you can do individual classes, but in all honesty, it's not very cost effective. The subscription is really where it's at. And then you can take all the classes that we offer at Pilates on Harrison. And then we have people who have started at $95 a month. Maybe they lost their job, went down to whatever, then got a job, went back up. You can change it month by month. It's not like you're locked into anything. If you ever have any comments or any questions, please do feel free to reach out to me. You could also on Facebook, you get to join the Mindful Cardio Facebook group by taking one Mindful Cardio class. And so it's been really fun as people are sharing different tips and tricks. And we've been talking quite a bit of late about cooking beans and different ways to cook beans to get the maximum nutritional benefit. And so we also start to go into nutrition a little bit too, and how to eat in a way that's more sustainable for your body, more sustainable for the planet. And that's been really fun to do too. And Melanie, really good to see you. And we'll see you soon, I hope.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Awesome.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.